India's market news headquarters. Cutting-edge analysis. Influential insights. Market-moving intelligence. Broadcasting live from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal studios in Mumbai.
Good morning. You're with us here on a fresh new edition of Bazaar Morning Call. It's a Wednesday morning, bright and early. It's still raining here in Mumbai, guys. And I don't know. I thought monsoons were done and dusted, but woke up to a kind of torrential rains, heavy rains. But we're coming to you from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal studios, and I'm Prashant, with me, my colleagues Surabhi and Nigel. Guys, hi, good morning.
Hi, morning, folks. And it's been raining gains for pretty much in the markets around the world. Incrementally small gains, but nonetheless, the color is green. Though, of course, we had our fair share of volatility. Yeah. Nigel, you called it right. Yes, we got 26,000 yesterday. Remember, closing bell, I put him, right
in the spot.
In the spot. Got 2,600 and then the volatility. So let's see if we can actually sustain above that mark today.
Well, that's right. And I'm feeling good today. For me, green or red, I don't know. But for me, the color is pink. It's my daughter's birthday.
Yes, little Natara's birthday.
Little Natara's birthday. So for me, it's going to be a special day. But let's get straight to the market action.
Absolutely. And, overnight as well, things are looking a little better. And, they've actually been like that. 1/3 of a percent, 0.5%, in that range, basically, in terms of gains. So nothing to complain. But yesterday, in a blink and miss moment, the market, the Nifty hit 26,000. And it was so blink and miss that actually we had to, the way we figured out is we actually went back and looked at the prices. It had hit about the 26,000 mark. I think actually 26,011 was the high for yesterday. That's a new all-time high. That's a new mark for the Nifty. And then, of course, we saw some selling pressure. So we ended absolutely flat. 25,940 is where we finally left off at. Now, last night, U.S. equities were modestly higher. The Nasdaq, the Nasdaq was, S&P was modestly higher. The Nasdaq was up almost about 0.6% in the green on your screen. The sort of big mover and the outsized influence came in from Nvidia. And here, you had an article from Barron's, which essentially said that Nvidia's CEO, Jensen Huang, sold about $700 million worth of stock, but he's done for now. I think the last part, which is the fact that he's done for now, is what caused that pop. The 4% move. Now, bond yields were flat. Dollar, nothing really going on. Little on the back foot on the dollar last night. As a result, the Chinese yuan is now strengthened and threatening towards the 7 to a dollar mark. So we'll see if it can break above that. Oil prices are trading above the $75 barrel mark. And prices have been very weak and they've been a little stronger. But basically in that $5-6 range is what we've seen this move. I think the continuing conversation, and it happened, of course, when we started same time yesterday, is those Chinese stimulus measures, etc. That was the big theme. Actually, that was the big dominating driver through Asia, through Europe, and actually through last night out of the US as well. It's being described as the biggest sort of set of measures since the pandemic, and perhaps it will have a little more enduring effect on commodities and not just like a one-day flash pop. I'll just sort of circle and close this back with levels. Nifty, the levels remain the same. The upside target, the 100% sort of projection of the last move is 26,245. And on the downside, the 40 hourly has moved higher, and that now stands at about 25,694. So about 25,700, 240 points away from where we left off yesterday. That's the closest kind of support. You start to get one or two negative daily closes, and then I think you will start to doubt the market or expect a slightly bigger pullback. For now, that is not really happening, and dips are being bought. Even small dips are being bought. Bank Nifty posted a positive, posted a negative close after 8 straight sessions of positive and higher close. And here I'd just like to put the support in, which is the 40 hourly, which is 53,364. Here as well, we made a new high. And I think, above that, it's all blue sky. So we'll see how it goes. GIFT Nifty will come up on your screen, and that'll give you an indication of how we start. 17 points lower. It's the season of IPOs, right? There is Swiggy, which we will talk about. There is Hyundai, which we will talk about. And there is so much demand for equity that a lot of equity is being supplied as well. So equity supply, I think, is going to be a feature which we will talk about through the course of the day. Surabhi.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And those are mega IPOs that are coming through, right?
Yeah.
Hyundai is seeking a valuation of, I think, $20 billion for its India business. $3 billion is how much they're raising. So, yes, we'll need money and more money to soak up all of this paper supply that's going to be hitting us. But just to talk about the cues across Asia, they're actually still largely positive. I mean, most of the markets, they're building on the gains that we saw yesterday, particularly the mainland China and the Hong Kong markets. In fact, the last I checked, the Hong Kong Hang Seng was up about 2%. Yeah, it's up 2.5%. The mainland Chinese market is still surging. It's up almost 3%. Remember, and these markets were up 4% yesterday. So in a matter of 2 days flat, you got 7% on the Chinese, key index, which is the Shanghai Composite, and 4 and 2.5. I mean, you've got 6-7% on Hang Seng as well. That's been the extent of the rebound. With a lot of optimism around those PBOC measures and the fact that you'll probably get more rate cuts in China as we go forward. That's actually powering some of the other regional markets as well. For instance, there's a bit of green on the Nikkei. There's some green on the Kospi as well. Talking about those moves, in fact, Prashant, the dollar yuan, for a very brief moment, it did dip below that 7% mark, actually. So 6.99 is what we saw. And that's the strongest level for the yuan in the last 16 odd months. And all this based on optimism, maybe the worst can be over for China and the economy picks up from here on. And eventually the currency starts strengthening. But we'll see how that plays along because you still have a key rate differential between the US and China. So let's see how these major central banks move. Coming back home, the volatility that we had yesterday was interesting, and let's see if the Nifty can really sail above 26,000 today or not. The opening is likely to be cautious, but let's see if the buyers come in and then we have a trending up day towards the end of it. Yesterday, it was not backed by major FPI buying. In fact, FIs were on the sell side. They sold off cash equity worth almost 2,800 crores. It was more domestic institutions that were, doing the heavy lifting and the buying, with a net buy purchase figure of about 3,800 crores. A lot of individual stocks are likely going to be in focus, and I think today's action is going to be, at least to start off with, very, very company and stock specific. So just to name a few, Delta Corp, finally they are demerging their real estate business. They'll be listing it separately. There's Easy Trip. We spoke to the management not too long ago, you'll remember, on this very show to talk about their strategic plans going forward. And now sources are telling us that the promoter could be selling up to 8.5% equity. So let's see how that stock reacts. There's MCX, there's revision in their F&O charges. Lots of individual stocks will be in focus. And of course, IPO Street keeps buzzing. Swiggy will be doing its own issue, and I think November is when the Swiggy IPO is likely to be timed. And it's interesting, it was quote-unquote confidential filing, because I think we'll have 1 or 2 more rounds of papers being filed with the regulator till we get the final details on the DRHP. And of course, and there is Hyundai Motors, $3 billion is what they're looking at raising from India. I don't know. All the IPOs, I think they'll be sucking in a lot of liquidity as well. But for now, I think 26,000 is where our eye is.
Well, that's right. On Monday morning, I made this point that since we're going to be gapping up and going by the markers, which seem stretched, maybe some kind of consolidation in the near term could have played out. And if you look at it from Monday's high till date, we're up only around 20 points on the Nifty.
Yeah.
That's effectively the move. And the other point that we made was that the Nifty Bank needs to lead from here on. And yesterday, the Nifty Bank took a bit of a breather. And because of that, the Nifty, well, it couldn't build on to those gains past the 26,000 odd mark here. The Nifty Bank, that was a relative underperformer. The other technical factor was that it was the weekly expiry of the Nifty Financial Services Index, which has insurance companies, NBFCs as well. So you had a bit of a spike in, the Nifty Financial Services Index before cooling off out there. The good news is that the India VIX, it didn't climb up too much, but in the last 3-4 sessions, it went up by close to 15-16%. So it cooled off a little bit. I don't want that VIX to go out of whack. So it's good. It's stable at around that 13.5 odd. What did the FIs do yesterday? Well, after a while, they added more shorts than long position. I like that. I want to see more shorts in the system. 3 shorts for every 1 long position. 30,000 contracts is what they added. And that's why the short positioning from around 25% has moved to around 28%. What about, the positioning? The FIs, they continue to remain net long, but they've reduced their net long positions by close to around 16,000 contracts or thereabouts. While you have the client positioning, which is still net short, but they've reduced their short positions by around 10 to 15,000 contracts odd. So they're remaining, at opposite ends, but they've reduced, the exposure to the long as well as the short side. Pulling up the options data, well, that'll give you an idea about what the range could be. So we made this point yesterday, 26,000 call, 25,950 call. Both of them are seeing a fair bit of writing at those levels. which is telling us that higher levels the bears want to protect. They want to protect the 26,050 odd mark, which becomes the marker on the upside. Once we get past that, then maybe, in fact, we'll say we're in for another couple of percentage points moves. So that's going to be a resistance mark, 26,050. While on the downside, going by the options data, the 25,700 mark is very, very important. The Nifty Bank, that's the one that plays out the weekly expiry today, the options data out them. And yesterday's high of around 54,250, that becomes a marker. You want to end above this mark, so that's important. And on the downside, 53,500 roundabout, that's an important mark that we're looking at. In terms of stocks I'm looking at a technical factor that plays out here. A lot of those stocks, they're coming out of the F&O ban, and the list comes up for you on the screen. And yesterday, you had a lot of them that came out of the F&O ban. So we'll keep an eye out on all these names for today's trade as well.
Okay, all right, Nigel, you come back here. We'll keep all those cues on board. Let's kick it off then with the equity call of the morning. Sunil Kaul of Goldman Sachs estimates MSCI India profit may grow at 14% CAGR in the next 6 years. He says this reflects India's resilient domestic economic growth backdrop, led by over 6% growth in investments and consumption, amid global moderation as domestic growth has become more important for India's earnings. He says profit pool is likely to shift towards investment cyclicals, and consumer cyclicals could see the highest absolute growth. He identifies 9 preferred growth pockets that span across power and energy, infrastructure, real estate, autos, transportation, housing, and agriculture.